something else to think about also, is that the presence of quarter clip shoes is the product, I feel, of the need for people to be able to keep shoes on horses better. Where they were pulling shoes off and horses twisting their shoes off, we've now got this modern phenomena where we've got quarter clip shoes. And they come in all shapes and sizes, but they quarter clip them. Instead of the toe clip out there, they put a clip either side of the toe quarter. And think about what that's doing. It's inhibiting the expansion of this hoof in the one place where it needs to start from, which is in this toe quarter. The hoof has to expand at the heel, but has to start expanding at the toe quarter. Where the toe clip was there just to centre the shoe and stop it kicking back, and allowed the movement of the hoof wall from the toe right back to the heel in both sides, and kept the hoof healthy and stress-free, we've now got these things, quarter clips, and it's totally stopping the hoof from expanding as it's being worked. To add insult to injury, we've then gone and put nail holes. And if you can see in here, there's a nail hole either side of this atrocious quarter clip. So not only are the quarter clip stopping the hoof from moving out, the nails pegged so close to those quarter clips are absolutely stopping any movement whatsoever in that front part of the hoof. And I've pulled so many of these shoes off horses where they've just been sore-footed, unhappy horses, ears back, teeth bare, don't want to be caught to be worked, and all I've done is taken these things off and balanced the foot and put on a nice normal toe clip shoe with some sensible nail pattern. So once again, going back to the side clip shoe, it really is only a band-aid to help the farrier or the hoof carer keep the shoe in place because it's twisting. And it's only a band-aid, and every band-aid you put on there has a cost. We never had problems when we fitted a shoe on, even without any clip in it whatsoever. But the toe clip was an advantage. But it never caused any stress or pressure to the free movement of this hoof. In the same way that these quarter clip shoes here are a band-aid thought necessary because we're having trouble keeping a shoe on a hoof, you've got to understand that the basic hoof, it hasn't changed. And if we balance this hoof properly and get it symmetrically right, there's no stress on that shoe in order for it to move. It's going to stay there. It's only a wear plate, and the nails are only sensibly spaced as a peg just to hold it in position. There is no stress on the bottom of the hoof caused by the horseshoe, and so the shoes won't shift. I prove this every day in my professional work. By the same token, and going one step further, another band-aid is where we square the toe of the hoof off, in the belief that we're going to stop the horse from forging and overreaching and hitting the heels of these shoes. If we square the toe off, now we're going to speed up the breakover of this front foot and stop this forging and overreaching from happening. But consider this, that if we took all the shoes off this horse and ran it down the road and back for a few times, it would come up with a hoof just like that. It wouldn't be square at the toe, it would just simply wear it back flat. The old timers did this purposely to find out where the hoof was before they shot it. It didn't wear square at the toe, it just wore flat. And nature provided this beautiful symmetrical shape here for a very good reason, and that was to give the horse's hoof the correct flight pattern. If we square the toe of that hoof off for any reason, we're actually interrupting the flight pattern or the stride pattern of this hoof, and so we're interrupting the horse's athletic performance. If we put on a square-toed shoe in order to stop this forging and overreaching, the real problem was in the balance of the foot to start with. And so the square-toed shoe or roll-toe shoe is only a band-aid to get us over the inability of not correctly balancing this horse's foot to start with. If we do prepare the bottom of this sole properly and follow the guidelines that nature has given us in this hoof, we will end up with a perfectly symmetrical round front foot and a nice kind of diamond-shaped back foot with no flares in it. The square-toed shoe is definitely a band-aid, and it has an effect. 2 or 3 months down the track, we think we've got over this initial forging and overreaching by using these square-toed shoes to get over that problem, but 2 or 3 months down the track, we've got another problem arriving. Because we've sped up the breakover of this hoof and it leaves the ground early, it travels much higher, but it also drops shorter. And it doesn't drop down heel first and goes flat. It's actually dropping down flat on the ground, not heel, flat and toe. It's actually coming up and then dropping back flat. That's causing the hoof not only to step this much shorter, but it's causing a lot of jarring back up through the leg. And now we've got 2 or 3 months down the track, a horse coming back and saying, hey, this horse has got an attitude problem. It doesn't want to work. It's rough and bumpy to ride. I've now got the chiropractor coming, and when the chiropractor's not fixing my horse, the rider is at the chiropractor fixing their back. I'm not a whiz kid, but I go over there, take these shoes off, these square-toed shoes off the horse, and dress the hoof properly, and miraculously I end up with a nice round foot and put on a normal standard shoe, and that horse works brilliantly and never forges and overreaches again. The next thing is, that's just an action problem we get with the horse. But the changes in the hoof are quite dramatic. If you square that toe off, you end up with a pillar, a square point, either side of the toe there. And within a month of having those square-toed shoes on this horse, you'll find you've got a bulge in the coronary band up here, directly above where we've created that square point in the front of the hoof. And somebody said to me at one stage, they're the natural dimples of the coronary band. But I find that when I take that square-toed shoe off and shape the hoof properly, as nature intended it, these natural dimples disappear. They never should have been there in the first place. They are the result of squaring that toe off and putting pressure either side of the toe capsule and causing pressure up through the coronary band. A pony in this case was having problems with its action, and it was supposedly sore in the feet, and so a farrier has come along and put on what we call rock and roll shoes. And you can see here that it does just that. To take the stress off the bottom of the hoof, he's rock and rolled the bottom of the hoof, like that. Now, if nature had intended the bottom of this hoof to be curved like that, surely to goodness it would wear like that the whole time when it didn't have shoes on it, but it doesn't. It wears flat. So what on earth are we going to achieve by putting on a shoe like that, which takes completely the stability away from this horse's confidence to stand on the ground properly? And this is probably one of the worst things I've ever seen done to a pony, because the owners, innocently enough, put this pony in a horse float to go to a show, and they didn't get across town. The horse went crazy and they had to come home. The horse couldn't stand in the horse float. Every time the thing moved, it lost its footing. It was like it was sitting on roller bearings. When these shoes were taken off, I visited the horse and found out there wasn't a skerrick of sole taken out here. The hoof was just rasped off into that shape to fit these rock and roll shoes. The pony was sore in this case, because it was standing on its sole. No sole had been taken out. No bar had been taken out. The frog was buried down in there, and the sole was actually above the height of the frog. So to resolve this lameness problem, these shoes were taken off. I pared all the old sole out of there, took out the bars, and then proceeded to trim this horse's hoof down, and end up by leaving a nice little bit of hoof capsule about 3 mil up from the junction of the sole for the horse to walk on, with a perfectly flat hoof capsule on the ground. Now that pony has since gone on and won many, many championships without shoes. Another band-aid is the graduated shoe, or the wedged heel shoe. And you can see there it's much more 3 to 5 degrees wedged at the heel than it is at the toe. And that's another way of overcoming the fact that the horse has been too low in the heel. And in the case of a racehorse, they're barking their bumpers back up in here, and so the thought is to put these graduated shoes on to lift the heels up. In actual fact, what we find is that by lifting this heel up, you're actually causing more stress in the deep flexor tendon, and you're bending that back part of the lower leg much more because it's jacked up and it still wants to come down. In most cases where I've found these graduated shoes to be in place to overcome that problem, the horse has been left too long in the toe to start with. And so when the sole is cleaned out and the hoof wall is taken down to where it should be, there's absolutely no need to replace it with a band-aid like this, because you've left the heel at the correct height by resolving the problem which was always in the toe. The next band-aid we come across is the egg bar shoe. This is one of the most commonly prescribed shoes by the veterinarian for the problem of heel soreness or navicular disease, which is located back in the heel of the hoof. In all my 52 years of shoeing horses, I've never been able to find proof of the fact that the egg bar shoe has fixed any horse. That's a pretty big statement to make. But I'm a practical man, and I work at the coalface in resolving lameness in horses. The egg bar shoe is prescribed in the belief that it's going to spread the weight over a bigger circumference, a bigger diameter, and thereby reduce the pressure anywhere. But they're only ever prescribed for a horse that's sore in the heels. So, when you put this egg bar shoe on a hoof, and this one isn't really the right size, but the philosophy is just the same, and you put this egg bar shoe on there, instead of the shoe finishing at the buttress of the heel, you've now got this leverage pressure out the back here past the buttress of the heel, which is causing pressure past the heel junction of the hoof. The one spot where the horse is sore, you've now increased the pressure. It's totally, absolutely not logical, and it certainly isn't practical for the horse. If we put these egg bar shoes on and we put it so that it doesn't extend past the buttress of the heel, then I can understand it. But why prescribe an egg bar shoe when basically all you need is a straight bar? The trailer shoe is used on most paces and square gaiters, and I've seen recently in some hacks it used also. Why is it used? Well, it's a very traditional shoe. It's feathered on the inside and more weighted on the outside, and it has this outside trailer. And it's designed basically to fit on a hoof such and to keep the weight, to keep the back leg out, so that when the leg's coming through, the hind foot doesn't knee knock or interfere with the other inside of the other leg. But the problem is that when this foot's coming through, that trailer is hitting the ground first. That causes the leg to turn sideways, or the foot to turn sideways, in other words, turn out cow-hocked. And in the case of a hater, when it hits the ground, the foot slides about 8 inches forward after it hits the ground. So you can imagine the stress factor in the lower leg of these horses. It's very important for the action of a horse that on any foot, front or back, that we maintain this T-square level down the back of the pastern and across the heels. And that level flatness on the bottom of the hoof, be it front leg or back leg, allows this hoof to go forward in a straight motion without swinging one way or the other. So once again, this is an invention that was born out of somebody's idea of keeping the horse's legs free from each other. And it's absolutely not necessary. I correct a lot of these horses by taking this off and putting on a normal, absolute normal shaped shoe without any trailer on it at all, and correct their action, their leg action, by simply getting this T-square, observing the T-square level.